well-balanced mind is about really understanding your mind. Understanding your emotions, understanding everything about human behavior and how it can help you create a healthier and happier lifestyle. Everything starts with the mind, and what the mind affects can be changed.
All right, everyone. It is another episode of Healthy by Association. Our special guest today will be Andrea Holovach. And, we have two really special topics today. First and foremost, we're talking about association CEOs and staff being exhausted and things we can do to overcome that exhaustion. That's really on my mind and on Jim's mind as well. Our special guests, Andrea and Angela, are also very focused on helping their kids stay active. So all of that and more in today's episode. Let's get started.
Welcome to your Healthy by Association Weekly Wellness Check with Aaron Holovach, Angela Pelk, and Jim Thompson.
All right, welcome everyone. It is Friday, March 19th. This is Healthy by Association. My name is Aaron Holovach. It is a pleasure to be with you. As always, our special guest today is Andrea. Andrea, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to see you. We know that you had a little bit of technical difficulty getting squared away, but that is behind us, and we're just welcome and excited to have you here on the show. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your connection to the health and wellness community.
Well, I think I'm making a triple repeat performance here, but I love you guys. And I'm an avid Friday viewer, as Aaron can probably tell you. So I work in an association, but health and fitness, gosh, is especially since COVID, been really a focus for me and my whole family. And it's been great to go on this journey. And I appreciate this community so much. I post a lot. Sorry for you Facebook users out there.
Well, and we appreciate that. I wanted to talk a little bit more about that. I know that you've been posting a lot of great content to the Facebook community, but more so than that, you've been introducing to our community some interesting member challenges, sort of maybe outside of the norm of what people might expect. I think that, in the past and in past years, we've seen things like push-ups or planks or whatever the case may be. But I think you're taking a sort of unique, interesting, fun spin on this approach to member challenges, and would love to hear more about that, as well as kind of what's the current member challenge that we're doing for the month of March.
So the member challenges have been fun. I tried to look at it from just the things I try to remind myself to do to be healthier. And so for March, some of the challenges, by the way, will be physical. Some of them will be not. And they can just be mental and emotional. I look forward. There's some coming up for the summer months that involve playing. And I think I made that reminder sometimes with my kids as we return to the little bit of hustle and bustle in our lives. But for March, our challenge is really about relaxing and sort of resetting our minds, which I am very bad at. So it's been a great reminder, and I've enjoyed getting tips and tricks from the community because it's not something I guess I dedicated as much time to as I maybe do to physical fitness.
Yeah, and we talked about that a couple episodes ago, and just what it means to relax by also setting aside technology. That's sort of a key component of the relaxation. There's so much sort of embedded in our screen times and even the light that kind of comes off of our screens. And so 20 minutes twice a week, relaxation. and trying to set screen time aside as much as possible. All right, so we'll be back to you here shortly, Andrea, but I do want to welcome Jim to the show. How's it going, and kind of what's your update for the week, Jim? We see you're wearing a new colored shirt as well, which is great. And I don't know if this is happening on anyone else's end, but Jim, your audio is not working. Cannot hear you.
Quote
Maybe because I was
2021.
muted. The infamous
muted.
Jim, you're muted. So I had some really amazing
live on the show.
I know, right?
So do it again. There you go.
So we're wearing some lovely vibrant orange, nice signal that spring is coming, something bright and vibrant. So things have been good this week. Just been very busy. Just work has been absolutely insane as we're starting to approach the meeting season in the summer. There's actually several events that are starting to come up that I'm actually looking at some in-person things that are happening. So, but yeah, just been glad to be able to get outside and walk some lately. It's been nice.
Nice, great. Well, welcome to the show. Thanks for sharing. Angela, without any further ado, we know that you've been having a busy day today in our pre-show meeting. We heard all of the sort of running around and errands that you've been up to. Tell us a little bit about how your day's going and how your week's been overall.
So far so good. We've just been, I've been trying to make myself busy. I know we've talked a lot about on the show about, stress level, and, high stress is bad, but even low stress is equally bad, when you just don't have a lot going on, or you don't have anything to sort of get your engine going. So, so this morning I crammed in a whole bunch of stuff before we were supposed to sign on here today. So it feels kind of good. Sun's out today. That always makes a big difference for me. So happy almost spring tomorrow.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Spring is right around the corner. Here in Dallas, we've had a bit of a cold front. Everyone feel bad for me. We dropped from 80 to 60 degrees. So we'll tough it out. But looking forward to those warmer temps right around the corner. As we sort of thought about what were the topics we really wanted to cover today, it was funny. We sort of had the boys fall out in terms of exhaustion, really wanting to focus on exhaustion, and the girls kind of really wanting to talk about their kids. And so we're going to engage everyone in these two conversations, but maybe spend a little bit more time on them than we normally would. I posted, I think, earlier this week, maybe it was yesterday, in the Healthy by Association community, an article that was written by an association CEO, Donna Oser from the Michigan Society of Association Executives, and she titled this piece, Association CEOs Are Exhausted. I sort of expand that to be more than just association CEOs. I think that, a lot of association staff would say the same thing. Really, we heard that information from a recent member survey that we conducted. And so it's firsthand information, not anecdotal in the least, 200 plus survey respondents. And you can read the article more fully, but I just wanted to sort of one at a time take these key recommendations and kind of get your take on maybe what this looks like for you. Excuse me. So the first recommendation in this article, assuming that we're all exhausted or nearing exhaustion, or just tired in general from kind of what it means to work from home and be engaged, and in some cases do more with fewer resources. That first suggestion was to plan time off, like right now. Look at your calendar, and whether it's one day every couple of weeks, whether it's a long weekend, whether it's a week off for vacation or something else, whether you're planning to travel or you're not planning to travel and just want to stay home and relax with a great staycation. It's really about kind of thinking about how you're using your time. I don't know how many people at the end of 2020 just had a bank of hours and days that they hadn't taken. And, for so many people, they think, well, I'm at home. So, where am I going to go, or what am I going to do? And is it really a vacation? And don't I have some of that work-life balance now? And the answer is just a resounding no, just no. So I'm curious, Jim, Andrea in particular, how are you thinking about, or how are you planning your time off? Maybe I'll start with Jim, and then I'll come to you, Andrea.
Well, honestly, I'm not. I don't think that's the problem. I'm not even thinking about what some time off looks like, just because I feel like, with the pandemic and everything, that's how it's impacted association work, and just, the virtual meetings, the hybrid meetings, just everything else, the staff challenges and things like that we're having. It's just hard to even fathom wanting to take the time off, just because, if you take 1 or 2 days off, it just means so much more work to do when you come back, or the work before you leave. So honestly, I'm struggling with that. I'm struggling with the idea of just being able to, take a few days off and relax. And that's not a good situation to be in.
Andrea, how about you? I know that you have kids as well, and I think maybe you took a little bit of a trip or some sort of time off. I'm kind of curious what your perspective is on this topic.
Yeah, so the kids help with the planning aspect, right? So as they have breaks from school, albeit virtual school, we have with our COVID pod, and I think I've mentioned them on here before, you guys. We've been super fortunate to find a set of neighbors that we knew before the pandemic, but that we really know now. And so we took an extended break around Thanksgiving and went to the mountains, because we're very fortunate here in North Carolina that the mountains and the beach are 2 hours away, whichever way you drive. And so we have spring break coming up, and we are doing sort of a COVID staycation, but in Hilton Head, South Carolina. And I don't think I'm supposed to put out on social media that I'm vacationing, but that's okay. And I will say it has helped so much in these last few weeks of work, knowing that that's around the corner. And so I think just having that plan completely changed my mindset and how exhausted I was, because I knew I just needed to get through the next day.
Well, and I love sort of piggybacking on sort of the breaks in your kids' schedules anyway, and just thinking about, how you can not work against that, but really work with it to find times, natural breaks throughout the calendar year to be able to do that. It's good reminders sometimes that, this is, even in my work and professional life, this is a good time or a great opportunity to take a break. I'm going to come to you, Angela, next with a new recommendation, because I know that this will hit close to home to you. Recommendation number 2 from Donna was to be intentional about spending at least 30 minutes outside every day. And I know both you and I do this. I think others do on the panel as well. I spend, a good 10-15 minutes at lunch every day, as long as it's not raining. And we've been taking that 3-mile walk every day. So we definitely get in at least 30 minutes outside every day. And to be honest, it's one of the things that I look forward to now. Like, as we think about traveling or going back into the office on a more regular basis, I've set some parameters for myself that just say, moving forward, my workday is going to be done at 4. I'm going to leave the office by 4, come home. If I have to work later, great, but I'm planning to get that walk in, and I'm going to make that a priority. And so I'm kind of curious for you to just kind of reflect on this yourself, and kind of how you've been approaching being intentional about spending time outside.
Yeah, I mentioned before, I have a girlfriend in the neighborhood, and we get together and walk a few times a week. This week has been not good for us. Monday morning, it was 18 degrees out here in Michigan, and we were just nope. And then it was raining, and it just hasn't been a great week for us to get that done. But when those walks happen, that's a great way to start the day. And even just getting out at all. I mean, us being at home now, just me even just going to do the school pickup or whatever. Sometimes I'll leave a little bit early and sort of, drive around or stand outside the car for a few minutes. I mean, it does make a difference. It's one thing to be, inside working at home, but gosh, if you can get outside for, 10 minutes a few times a day, it really does make a difference.
Absolutely. I'm going to keep us moving along on this topic, but the third tip of 4 is to master the power of your calendar. And I would love for any of the panelists who have a good calendar strategy, just kind of let me know, because I'd love to come to you and talk about that. But I have become I've taken a new approach, a new tack to my calendar this year. Every day of the week, actually, I have a couple of at least an hour, if not 2 hours, blocked in both the morning and the afternoon. that I will open up if absolutely necessary. But my team generally knows that, I'm trying to protect that time both to work. It also allows me a time in the day where I get to stand up and walk away from my desk. I've shared a number of times now that my watch has been telling me that by the end of the day, I have not stood up in like 12 hours. Like I've not stood up for 12 minutes, 1 per hour for 12 hours. How is it possible that I sit so much at my computer that I don't get away enough to sort of meet my stand goal? And so part of my resolution to myself, part of my habit that I'm trying to create, is to just more intentionally block off that time in my calendar. Andrea, I saw a little reaction from you. I don't know if that was good, bad, or ugly, but I would love kind of your take on
Was
mastering the
was
calendar.
all of the above, Aaron. So we pre-pandemic, my organization worked a 980 schedule. So if you've ever worked those before, you work 9-hour days, technically. And then you have every other Friday off, and sort of the staff is split in half, A team, B team. With the pandemic and all of us being at home, and most of us were working every day anyways, we went to a fully flex schedule. So there's no more like dedicated Friday off. And because that dedicated Friday off was there, it had become the day of no meetings. And so you always had that Friday to kind of knock out the remaining things on the list and make your plan for next week and clear up any emails. And Fridays have turned into the days my volunteer leaders have available to talk. And so my Fridays are just jam-packed. So I have made a point, and if anybody tells anyone on my staff or any of my leaders, but Mondays have become my day. And I do spend some time looking, usually around Wednesday, I'll look at my calendar for the next week. And if it's a week of just jam-packed meetings, I'll block my entire Monday. Just be like, nope. And it's been my sanity point that I have to have at least a day in there that is not Andrea's 5 minutes late for every meeting. So
well, and it's funny, it's become such a habit.
Times before. Yeah, I mean, just because we can meet doesn't mean we should. Just because it looks available, you know what I mean? Like, we've talked about it so many times. That's the danger of like this work from home thing, right?
It's funny, actually. We were talking about our days today, and Trevor, like I said, after HBA today, I actually have a number of meetings. And normally Friday afternoons, I don't take meetings. It's normally an opportunity for me to sort of get caught up, kind of get prepared for the week ahead, etc. And, in rare instances, I will book them when needed. But I do have a pretty full Friday afternoon of meetings. And Trevor was like, that's unusual and that's different for you. And I just was like, yeah, it is different for me, but in this case, it was intentional. And I think intentionality is key here about your calendar and how to navigate your calendar, particularly if other people have access to your calendar. Blocking off what is acceptable and unacceptable time to book meetings is important. All right. So one last one, and I'll sort of just share this last tip, and then we'll move on to talk about our kids. But this last tip on the list of 4 was just to pick up the phone and call a colleague or a member. I think it's interesting. I don't know about anyone else on the panel today, but I dread the phone. I don't leave me a voicemail. I'm going to read sort of the transcription, and whatever transcription says is what you said, right? So like I don't go back and listen to it. I just make the assumption that it knows what you said, and half the time it's probably wrong. I also don't like calling people back. So I will probably like email you instead or whatever, right? Any number of things. Text, like just like being on the phone, just like I just hate it. But during this sort of time and a year into the pandemic, one of Donna's tips and tricks is just to like pick up the phone sometimes and be connected with folks. That Slack and email and text message and whatever can dehumanize us all at some point. And so it's just a food for thought. If you haven't picked up the phone in a while, whether it's a staff member, a volunteer, a member of your organization, organization, a board member, the list goes on. Think about the impact that will have. I also know that earlier this year, actually in January, I need to do it again here soon, but in January, I hand wrote note cards to all of my team members and sent them in the mail. And you would have thought that I sent them $1 million. They were just like, that was so nice. Like, you wrote a note and sent it to me in the mail. And so I'm just thinking about how we're kind of staying in touch with folks, I think is important.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right. So our next topic is around kids. Angela, I'd love for you to sort of get us started. And then Andrea, I'll come to you kind of to get your take. And then Jim, you'll be on deck as well for kind of a clean sweep. I'm the only one, like I have, look, the only thing I'm going to say about kids right now is that I've started pen paling with my nieces, and they just write the absolute cutest notes. We love them so much, and I actually bought separate storage so that I could start storing all of their notes to us so that I could look back at them later. So anyway, that's just my cute story about kids. But Angela, kick us off.
Well, I'm very intentional for myself when it comes to exercise and movement. And I realized that when my son had a long period of time at home right before Christmas, that he was not getting any movement in. He was, they had shut down high schools at that point, and his soccer, which was just like a couple times a week, but his season had ended and he wasn't doing like 2 practices and a game almost every week, and he just wasn't moving as much. And so, I sort of said, all right, listen, we've got to do something. I don't care what it is, but you've got to get outside and do something physical for 15 or 20 minutes every day. And whether it's, get out and ride your bike or go kick the soccer ball around it, in the yard, you've got to get out. And he's actually been really good about doing that. And I think it really makes a big difference. I mean, it's easy. I don't know, it's easy to just get a kid out of your hair and like go be on your phone for 27 hours a day, like go right ahead. but I've learned, that doesn't serve him well. It doesn't serve me well either. So, I'm actually really glad that he's sort of, taken it up. A lot of times when I'm exercising, I have the door shut or whatever. So he doesn't necessarily see what I'm doing so that it turns into modeling, but he is actually, he does like moving. And so it's good to see him kind of taking the initiative and getting out there.
That's awesome. Andrea, how are you making healthy habits fun for your kids?
Well, so I have 2 boys that pre-pandemic were ridiculously active and probably more than they should have been physical activity wise. And so at the beginning of the pandemic, we maybe didn't notice quite as much. They've never been gamers. They were never, PlayStation, Xbox kids. We frankly just never had the time. And all of that sort of started to shift. But at Thanksgiving, and I think I've told this community before, at Thanksgiving, I just threw out, hey, we're gonna run our own 5K today, right? There's no turkey trot that we can go to. Frankly, we never went to them before, but we're gonna do one today because I just feel like it. And so my whole family and our COVID pod, we went out and ran a 5K, just around our neighborhood. And we all got done. We all finished on our own time, and we all felt good. And we jokingly just said, we should do one of these every week. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And next thing you know, we're running a 5K at least once a week. And my teenager, my oldest, we never had to ask him. He just came. And when it turned into a 10K, he just came. And I realized that he has started to actually pay attention to the fact that we do exercise. And he goes on the walks with us every night without fail. And if that's his only exercise, and the rest of the time he's sitting and playing Minecraft now, I'm okay with that. But it was such a proud mom moment to realize that I wasn't having to force him, and he was just enjoying it. And by the way, the COVID pod dad said to him one day, I don't even think you're trying, because I was beating him. He said, I don't think you're trying. I haven't beat him since. because
Yep.
he wasn't trying.
Sounds about right.
Wow.
Well,
Yeah.
I think part of
So
what you're
it's been
saying
great.
here, and I think part of what's so important is just, I think the role modeling is important, but also the doing it together is important. I think back to
Mhm.
even as a kid, like I didn't necessarily have parents that were focused on health and wellness, eating a certain way or moving a certain way or an amount of time. However, at some point in my life, like I was told by my parents that maybe I should be active or I should, run or whatever. And it's like, well, why should I do something that you're not doing? Or why should I do something that's, like, why, so it's just interesting. And it's interesting to see my sister, her husband and their kids sort of doing it together. And I think the doing it together is certainly a big key here. Jim, I'm curious your take. I know your kids are a little bit older and certainly they have a great role model in you in terms of health and wellness. Tell us a little bit more about, how you sort of partner with your kids.
Sure. So I think probably my son's probably the greatest example of that, just because I think he's already somewhat self-motivated, just because, I mean, he's very active in playing soccer. I mean, plays high school soccer, club soccer, and, we've done like F3 activities together. I mean, we started, doing the pickleball thing, that was one of those things that we started playing together. And literally, like, on Sunday mornings when we usually go play, at 7 o'clock, he's like banging on my door, like, come on, like, let's go. Are you ready? So, he's always motivated to get out. And frankly, he's almost been, in some cases, been more motivating to me, just because his activity. Now, when it comes to my daughter, that's a whole nother story. It's like trying to get her to like do exercise has been just like pulling teeth sometimes. But, one of the things I've been trying to encourage her is that there's so many little things that you can do, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes a day, and so she occasionally has found these apps where she does these little 5-minute workouts or, I've even encouraged her, like, even if you're just in your room and you're dancing, like that's something, that's an activity. But, with COVID and everything and being virtual, it's been tough on her because I think she's not had school activities and things like that. But now that that's starting to open up a little bit, and she's playing soccer again now, which has been great. And I've been encouraging her to get out and practice and things like that. And she's actually taken some steps to do that. So it's an interesting dynamic though when you look at both of them. How one of them is just so extremely self motivated to get out and do stuff and motivates me, and the other one, literally it's like pulling and dragging her to like try to get out and do some things. So I like the idea. Maybe the thought about doing more things together with her. That may be something that needs to be more of a intentional thing to be like, come on, let's just go for a walk, you and me. Like, just get out. Let's go, you and me. Just do that.
Mm-hmm.
Jim, I also love Maria posted, she was our guest last week. She posted, I think just today in the Facebook community, a visual around those neat activities where sort of you're creating movement by doing the things you already have to do. You already have to walk from the desk to the kitchen or whatever. And so kind of maybe even taking a look at that and kind of reminding ourselves that, just by incorporating a little more movement into things we already have to do, as you've indicated, I think that could be at least a good start, a good foot in the door. Well,
Right, exactly.
so much good content and topics and ideas and insights today. I want to thank you all certainly for joining the panel. Angela and Jim, as always, it was great to see you. And, we've intentionally set out in the coming weeks to not wear the same thing every Friday. So tune in every Friday to see just exactly what we're wearing.
Right.
Andrea, as always, it was a pleasure. Great insights. If folks want to get in touch with you to learn more about some of the topics you raised today, what's a good way for folks to get in touch with you?
Honestly, I think for the Healthy by Association community, reach out on Facebook. Although I'm committed to putting my devices down, that is probably where I respond the fastest.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we see a number of posts from you on an ongoing basis, so folks can comment there as well if they don't quite see you in the member list. But again, we appreciate you for joining us. I just want to remind folks, I posted a couple of days ago that if you have any virtual, in-person, hybrid meetings coming up on the horizon, particularly with audiences that you think are interested in health and wellness, we do have a Healthy by Association PowerPoint slide in the Facebook community. You can just pull it right off and dump it into that slide deck. Even if it's during a break time, we would love for you to help us continue to get the word out about Healthy by Association and, of course, our partners at Be Well TV to share this great content on an ongoing basis with as broad an audience as possible. So do just know that that's available, and we're going to continue to dump tools and resources into the Facebook community over the coming weeks. So stay tuned for that. Our special guest next week will be Jay Bennett, so join us for that. In the meantime, this has been Healthy by Association, and until next time, please remember to power your life with health, wellness, and intention. See you next week, everyone.